G'day, hello, and how you going? Today we are doing something that is kind of an older trend, but I'm only new to BookTube, so it's new for me. Today we're going to be looking at other people's one-star reviews of my favorite books, and I'm nervous to do it because I love these books, and if they start to change my opinion, I'm not going to be impressed, and I'm in fact going to be very, very sad. Alright, so the first one we're going to look at is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, and if they hurt my feelings on this one, I'm going to be very disappointed. All right, first one-star review. I had high hopes for this book, but 6 hours in, it's an Audible book, and I'm still waiting for something interesting to happen for my own personalized definition of interesting. Yeah, there's fighting and torture and desperate journeys with few resources and even something of a budding romance. All of those things sounded incredible to me. That sounds like a lot of interesting things. So I don't know, maybe our definition of interesting is very, very different. All of which I could put up with if the characters were engaging and or working towards something interesting. Unfortunately, many of the POV characters are outright off-putting. Want a tally? Yeah, I want a tally. I want to know why the best characters ever are not good characters. This will be fun. Glockta is a torturer for a corrupt regime who actually asks himself, why am I doing this? Yeah, because he's torturing people. And who wants to torture people? If you actually pay attention to the book, you'll know that he was once tortured. So we can understand that he's clearly damaged and clearly conflicted. Now, let's see the next complaint. Giselle is a sot actively undermining his own ambition to be more than a waste of space. Okay, that's mostly true. Good character development to come. You need to keep reading the book, but I can understand that. I can appreciate that one. Logan has only just gotten someplace that isn't actively trying to kill him. He's actually the only interesting POV guy so far, if only because he's at least trying to be a good person. That's actually decently well summarized. Logan Ninefingers is a phenomenal character. I think the thing about Logan is we know how brutal he is, and we learn that as the book goes on, but he doesn't want to be that guy. He wants to be a better person, but the world just keeps fighting back, and he keeps finding himself in situations where he has to do the wrong thing, which is also kind of the right thing for himself. Morally grey. Fantastic execution. Disagree. Who's the next character? The politics of the Union just don't work at all. The king is an idiot, actual village idiot level idiot, and the council running things is stacked with people as stupid as they are venal. Yeah, that's kind of apt. I don't mind that. That's oddly accurate. That's oddly accurate. But I don't think that's a problem. I like that. I kind of like that the king was an idiot, and I kind of like that there were divided factions, and I kind of like that it wasn't a perfect system. That allowed for avenues for this story to go down that made it so interesting. So that's what I think about that, my friend. So I just don't care about anybody or anything in the book. I want the Union to dissolve, if only to clear out the disconnected, self-involved jackhats now running the place, some of which are POV characters. I'm sorry, but without something to care about and a story going nowhere for hours on end, I can't see wasting any more time with this dreck. Disagree. What I will say is this book does definitely start in a way where it's very hard to work out where the book is going. The plot is not that clear. It feels a bit random and scattered, but you're learning about these amazing characters, and you'll learn so much more as the series goes on, that the characters are just so good, so gritty, so morally grey, that I love where this story goes, and I love that I didn't know a lot about it. For me, that was fun because the characters are so good. Although, it seems like this person did not enjoy the characters, so it was pretty unlikely they were going to enjoy the rest of the book. All right, that was more fun than I expected. Let's go to the second one. That was amazing. I cannot properly express how painful a read this was for me. I should have known from the struggle I had just to make it through the first few chapters. If you ask me what happened in this novel, my answer would be something like a bunch of unlikable and or boring characters get introduced. There's a lot of swearing and gratuitous violence. Other than that, I have zero clue as to what the whole point was. There seemed to be no plot at all, just a bunch of terrible, horrible characters running around doing horrible, douchey things. Okay, this is amazing. I totally get it. To be honest with you, I totally get it. This is a meandering story. There's not a lot going on. The plot is extremely unclear and doesn't pick up maybe even until the second book. So I can understand that they didn't love where it was heading. As for the characters, you've only just got to know them. But I will say, the characters are amazing and you're incorrect. After reading Glockta's intro, I was convinced the characters were actually lizards. So much focus on him licking his teeth and gums, okay, that's true, and the fact that he's a cripple but no other kind of descriptions to convince me he wasn't a lizard man. Honestly, this would have been a much more interesting read if it had been about humanoid lizards. I don't even know what to say to that. They do often say that he licks his teeth and gums, and I also really did not enjoy that, so I can appreciate that this person didn't like it either. But, come on. Humanoid lizards? Come on. I wasn't invested in any of the characters and I detested reading about them. Major West was a minor reprieve, but wasn't written in nearly enough. I must agree with that. I loved Major West, and he wasn't in probably as much of the book as I would have liked. He was a great character. It almost felt like the author fought so hard to avoid any kind of stereotype or cliche that he ended up removing all elements that made books interesting. No plot, hated characters, ugly settings. He definitely didn't go for a lot of cliches, although there are some in there. He definitely went for a story that is quite unique without being way out there and way over the top. I thought he executed it really well, to be honest. The swearing was ridiculous and seemingly placed for shock factor. It added nothing to characterization and was used so often it became somewhat redundant. The violence was sparse, but when it came, it was heavy, brutal, and unnecessarily gruesome in detail. But you're picking up a grimdark book. I think that if you don't know what you're getting into, then you might feel like, whoa, that hit really hard, but you know you're reading an R-rated, most likely, graphic, detailed, gruesome book. So yeah, no sympathy there. You knew what you were getting yourself into, or at least you should have. All right, next up, let's do The Lies of Lacklamora, a fantastic book that I really enjoyed, but I will say, I can totally see how other people won't love it. So it'll be interesting to see what people say. On to the first 1-star review of a 5-star book, in my opinion. Blah, 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 I'm a thief. Meh, DNF. Okay, so I get to be the odd man out this time, the cranky old curmudgeon who failed to like a wildly popular book. Okay, all right. Let's see where you're going. Many of my GR friends love this book, which was hyped as a mix between Godfather and Ocean's 11, and that sounded great. It also started pretty good with a Fagin and Artful Dodger type situation. I also thought the writing was akin to Brent Weeks and China Meeville. I don't know China Meeville, but we'll keep going. And then the rest of the book happened. I just did not care anymore about the story, the characters, and I'm foggy at why and how popular it is. Life's too short, too many great books to read, and I invoked my 100-page rule. It was a stretch just to get that far. Well, there's your problem. You only gave it 100 pages. First of all, this book, the first 100 pages was terrible compared to the next 400 or 500 pages. This book ramped up incredibly, almost exactly at the 100-page mark. So you actually missed the entire story. I don't even think you got to the actual con of the story, which is what it's all about. So you gave up way too early. And also, when you're reading a series, a lot of the time the hard work and the groundwork is laid early so that the rest of the series can open up. So quitting after 100 pages of a big 3-book series was very early. I would suggest anybody who does read this book, give it a lot more than 100 pages, because the first 100 is incredibly different to the rest, and it's written very, very differently. Not only the story, but the actual writing changes on a dime. All right, let's go to the next review. I gave up in the scene where he's on the boat with the people he's doing the long con on. So the last review probably didn't even get to this scene, which is like literally the beginning of the story. There is so much exposition dump and backstory wondering that the actual story keeps getting ignored. Then add the insanely complicated society with made-up words requiring parenthetical definitions and overly complicated rituals for the sake of, ooh, this is a different world, and I couldn't take another minute. I mean, I don't agree. Flat out don't agree. I thought it all served a purpose to show us the type of world we're living in, especially considering there wasn't a lot of world building. That just gave us a taste of the kind of people we were dealing with and the kind of world we were walking around. George R.R. Martin praises it as richly detailed or something similar, which makes sense since he's another one who never uses 3 words when 7 pages will do. All right, I'll give him props for that. That's funny. All right, let's move on to the next review. And by the way, I am having way too much fun with this. This is fantastic. My enjoyment of this book was severely limited by the fact that I kind of hated every character in it. Yeah, well, that probably would take away from the enjoyment of the book. I don't know how it's possible because the characters in this book are so much fun. But if you don't like the characters, you're probably not going to like the book. The perfect illustration of why I didn't like Locke in particular comes near the end of the book. Locke is desperate to find a way to... Okay, all right, so I've read the rest of this review quickly because it looked like it was going to be a spoiler, and it is, but the review won't be if I just describe it to you. So what they've pretty much described is one of the cons that's sort of a side con to the main con that had to be done in order to get where Locke wanted to go. And it was super duper elaborate, and there's no doubt about it, it was extremely far-fetched. But that's the fun of this book. The whole point is that this is a person who was brought up with one goal and one purpose in mind, to become an amazing con artist. So this was just his really elaborate way of getting to the next part of the story. And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was super fun. I can see why it was far-fetched and over the top, but it's not the kind of book you go over with a fine-tooth comb. It's one just to enjoy. Just enjoy the con, enjoy the extravagance, enjoy the trouble and the crazy situations they get into. If you can do that, you'll probably end up loving the book. One thing I want to say is that I can't expect everyone to enjoy the books that I enjoy, and I can't expect people to not enjoy them, but this was really fun and really eye-opening. People have some super interesting perspectives and totally different from my own, and I love that about human beings. I love that about our world. I love that everyone's unique and different and has their own opinion. This was really fun. This was really eye-opening. I'd love to do it again sometime. I'm actually going to do another video soon where I go over my most hated books and their 5-star reviews from other people. So an exact flip on this video. And what I will say is I noticed that people who hate have way more to say than people who love. So stand by, stick around for that one. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you do want to see that, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and I'll catch you next time. See ya!